Hey guys, welcome back to Healing Fibromyalgia's YouTube channel. It does not get lost on me when I say that. It's an unbelievable journey. And I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're watching because I can't wait to keep sharing the things that I've done in my healing journey. And hopefully you guys will learn some stuff that you can apply in your life and it will make you feel better as well. So I'm Paula. As I said, thank you so much for being here. We talked before about some of the things that led me to feeling better. And I just want to talk more about the first things I did because I was completely desperate. I had called the doctors and kind of said, right, what do we do next? What do we try next? And she had said to me, well, actually, there is nothing. You've had everything. There's no real medications for us to try anymore. We could add some paracetamol to your prescription if you want. And I'm taking morphine for my pain. My pain was so high, and she wants to add some paracetamol in, and I just couldn't understand how there was any long-term solution for me to feel the way I was feeling. So at that point was my point of change. That was my real low point. It was when I had a cry. My legs didn't work. I was using a walking stick and a mobility scooter. My brain didn't function. I was hugely fatigued, and I just didn't think life could carry on like that. So I was determined I wasn't going to feel like that for the rest of my life. And I researched and I researched and I researched. And that led me to understand that I needed to relieve some of the stress off of my nervous system. And I knew that physically I needed to make some change. So I started to cut out all of the chemicals that were in my diet. And I'd been vegan for 5 years. I thought being vegan was going to be healthy. But when I started to look at what the ingredients were in the things that I was eating, actually I realised that there was just huge amounts of chemicals in all of these foods. So I went from eating just plant-based to eating pretty much completely meat-based. I stopped buying things that had labels because I didn't really understand the food labels. There were so many ingredients on all of these products. And I just found it too overwhelming. I was too poorly. So what I did, I got a piece of paper and I made a list of all the foods that I was happy to eat. So it was things like meat in all varieties, all meats, but just nothing processed, no processed pieces of meat. So no bacon, no salami, no hams, that kind of stuff, but just pieces of meat. So either beef mince, steaks, chicken thighs, pork belly, whatever piece of meat it was. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't processed. I then decided that I would include some dairy. Some people don't, but I'd never really had any kind of sensitivity to dairy. So I included things like kefir, which is fermented milk. It's full of really, really good probiotics. So it's full of great bacteria for your gut health. So I included that, had that every single day. I actually started making my own because I didn't want to buy it from the shop. But I mean, now I understand food labels a little bit more. There's some really great products out there. I included avocados, I included some veggies, but not many. I included things like Greek yogurt, not Greek style yogurt, but Greek yogurt, because again, full of really good bacteria. Sauerkraut, it comes in a jar. It's like fermented cabbage, but again, really good bacteria, really good for your gut health. And also fish, so oily fish particularly, but anything that was not processed, anything that was clean. And I also massively reduced down the amount of carbohydrates I was eating. if I was eating carbohydrates, it would be sourdough or white rice, and I would only have them in the evening, because carbohydrates cause a big surge of insulin in your body. When you have that big surge of insulin in your body uses up all of the glucose that it's got, but then it will naturally fall back down, and then you feel quite tired. We've all had a sandwich, haven't we, at lunchtime, and then an hour later we feel really, really shattered. So I wanted to save that time where I was getting that kind of carb coma until it was evening time. So when I was eating carbohydrates, there wasn't loads of them, and I was only eating them in the evening. If I'm honest, since then I don't really eat carbs anymore, but at the beginning I did. And then I took out all of the inflammatory oils. So I did some research, and I was watching videos of people on the internet, and they were talking about health and things that you can do to improve your body. And one of the things that came up was inflammation. Now, inflammation is absolutely massive, and it has huge amounts of impact on our body. Things like depression, things like asthma can all be linked to inflammation. People that have got arthritis will have inflammation. So none of the cells in our body actually do want to have any kind of inflammation. And if you've got cells that are inflamed in your body, they're going to hurt, because actually they shouldn't be inflamed. If you have inflammation in your brain, then actually that's where you get things like depression or brain fog. And I've already told you, my brain did not work. My brain function was really low. Sometimes I couldn't even have a conversation because I couldn't find the words, or I would say something, but I wasn't really thinking about how I was saying it. And then I would just end up upsetting people because the tone of my voice meant that how I came across wasn't in the way that I'd intended. So I was really keen to try and reduce my inflammation, try and look at the things in my diet that could potentially affect that. And one of the things that I learned was actually these processed oils that we have in our diet, which are actually called seed oils, and they come under that banner of seed oils, and particularly vegetable oil, sunflower oil, and rapeseed oil. I think in the US it might be called canola oil, are significantly inflammatory to our body. They're made in a process which is just highly manufactured. They are heated to the point where these oils become rancid and they smell really bad. So they have to put deodorizers into the oil, then they have to bleach the oil, and then they give it to you and you cook your food in it. So these oils probably should never have been in our food, but they are in our food, and they're in huge amounts of food. So because, again, I go back to the point that I didn't really understand food labels and I didn't want to make it too complex, but I knew I wanted to cut out these inflammatory oils. So I just removed them completely from the things I was cooking my single ingredient food in. And I changed what I cooked in to being either animal fats, so things like lard, beef tallow, duck fat, goose fat, butter. Ghee is another really good one. That's like a clarified butter. If you wanted to use an oil, things like coconut oil are really good. Not everybody likes coconut oil. If you don't like coconut oil, you can use avocado oil. Those two oils can be heated quite high. They've got quite high smoke points. If you want to add olive oil onto your food, do that when it's cold. Don't heat it up, because actually it doesn't have a very high smoke point. So then if you heat oils beyond their smoke point, then they don't become so good for you. So I completely cut out all of these seed oils, all these inflammatory oils. And because I was cutting out all the processed food, the knock-on effect was I could really control the things that went into my body. And it was so significant to me because I was really poorly and I didn't feel like I had very much control about anything in my life, really. But what I put in my mouth, I felt like I could control. So, meats, Greek yogurt, cheese, eggs, all cooked in butter, few nuts, a few carbohydrates, and a few veggies was pretty much the list that I made. And because I'd made this list and I'd decided with myself that actually I wasn't going to deviate away from the things I'd decided I was going to have, it actually made the process a lot easier to start with, because it stopped me having to think about these things, and it stopped me having to, like when you're really hungry and you go to the supermarket and you end up buying a load of rubbish because you get all those cravings. Well, I'd already decided the things I was going to have, and that made it easier. It was an easier starting point for me. So, no processed food, completely cut it out, and cut out all these inflammatory oils as well. At the same time, I started intermittent fasting. For those of you that don't know about intermittent fasting or have heard it but don't really understand what it is, it's about looking at the amount of time that you eat your meals in a day. And it's really thinking about what time do you get up and start eating, and then you eat throughout the day, and when do you stop eating. Now, everything that I was reading went against the eat little and often, because every time you're eating, your body is then triggered into the digestive process, which is really intense on the amount of energy it takes, and your body gets really tired from digesting food. But also, every time you eat, you have then a spike of insulin, and your body's going up and down and up and down. And you want to try and level that out as much as you can to stop the up and down, because you want to just be as relaxed in your body as you can without putting the extra pressure on it that it doesn't need. So intermittent fasting is not about necessarily eating less. In fact, eat all the food you want to eat in that time, but just try and make that eating window slightly smaller. And not everybody thinks that they're capable of doing this. And in the very first instance, I also wasn't sure that it was something I could do. But what I started with doing is looking at what time I would normally get up, what time would I normally start eating, and then I just tried to push that back by half an hour. And I pushed it back by half an hour, and then the next day I'd push it back by a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And then on the other end of that, I looked at, well, what time am I eating until? And then I tried to just make that shorter and shorter as well. So then I was closing the gap of the amount of time that I was eating in a day. But when I was eating a lot. I was eating a lot of fatty foods. I was eating a lot of protein. And it was really important for me to eat really nutritious food so that my body was not having to find all of the nutrition in my food, because it was just a load of processed rubbish and chemicals it was trying to get through. But it was like, it was there, it was available, it was easy for my body to actually use that nutrition and turn it into energy. So I started to intermittent fast, and I started to cut out all the processed foods and the inflammatory oils, and I did it all at the same time. And I did that, and I was really, really strict with it. I didn't have any treats, I didn't have any rubbish. It was too important for me to try and make a change, because the doctors had said they couldn't help me. And the honest truth is within a couple of weeks, within 2 weeks, I could feel a difference in my body. So my body didn't hurt as much. And when I was doing things, I didn't feel so tired. I didn't have so much fatigue. And I was able to, little bit by bit, do a little bit more. And I also had better brain function. So I wasn't as forgetful. I could get my words out better, ironically, as I just got them confused. And I just felt better in myself. And I felt like maybe there is something in this. Maybe this is the start. Maybe this could be something. And that's where I started. And it's really important for me to make that video, because there's so many people out there that are in huge amounts of pain, that are really struggling, that don't see any hope and feel completely overwhelmed, completely out of control with their symptoms, and want to know what they can do today or yesterday, or they want to make a start now to make these changes. And if I was going to do the whole thing again, it's exactly the same places where I would start. So if that is you, if you think that you don't know where else to turn and the doctors can't help you anymore and you're fed up of the medication and you want to do something for yourself, start there. Start with what you're putting in your body and get your body working in the best possible way that it can. Now, that's not to say that you can change your diet and your fibromyalgia is going to just completely go away. But it's a start. And it's a really, really positive start for your body. Your body is going to be so thankful that actually it's got food that is nutritious, that it can use for energy, that you're not filling it full of inflammatory oils that is causing pain and problems in your brain. If your body can feel better and the processes of digestion can feel better, that's one thing that we've ticked off the list in the right direction of healing. So, as I said, if you want to make a start, that's where I would start. I'm going to keep making these videos. I'm going to keep telling you all the other things that I did. Please keep liking them. Please keep sharing them. Share them wide. I know that there are so many people that are affected by fibromyalgia. Way more than I ever imagined. Way more than I ever thought possible. It makes me incredibly sad that there's so many people out there that are suffering, but let's build this community together. Share the things in the comments that are working for you. Ask me questions in the comments and I will try and make some videos related to the things that are most important for you guys. But please please share, please comment and please subscribe. And thank you so much for joining me again today. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.